Hey, good morning, 8th grade. How are we doing today? Today, we're going to start reviewing for our first test. So, I feel like we've hit this stuff about as much as we possibly can. So I'm just going to kind of go over a quick review of some things that could show up on the test. You should write all this down because it will help you on the test and you can use your notes. So let's give this a shot. Just going to kind of roll through some things we learned this year. First thing I want to talk about is squares and roots. So let's do that first. So we know when they say 3 squared, what that really means, or 3 to the second power, is you have a square with 3 on all the sides, right? And then 3 squared is just the area of that. Which if you count them, there's 9 squares in there, right? Or 3 times 3. All right? And then we learn the opposite of that, which is if they give you the square and they tell you the area is 9, you want to find how big the sides are, right? And we do that by finding the square root. So you're finding what times what equals 9. Now I like to put a variable in here because that shows that those two numbers are both x's, means they both have to be the same number, right? So we know it isn't 4.5 plus 4.5, it's 3 times 3, right? So the answer to this one is 3. Now when they show you the square, that means your answer is only positive. But if they just give you this, square root of 9, you would say the answer is 3 or negative 3. You gotta put them both, right? Both of them must be there, all right? They'll probably say, what are all the answers for the square root of 9? You'd have to say 3 or negative 3, all right? So we can even do that with a bigger number. When you have bigger numbers, don't forget, it's a number times a number equals 64. And they both have to be the same. So you can't just do 64 divided by 2 and say it's 32. Because that would be 32 plus 32, but we have a time sign here, right? So it's actually 8. Your answer would be 8 or negative 8, right? Okay, so that's square roots. And then we also had the square roots that are in between two numbers, right? So say you had the square root of 80. And you would say, well, what's the closest I can get to the square root of 80? We know 9 times 9 is 81. That's just a tiny bit too big. So I go a little smaller. 8 times 8 is 64. It's a little too small, right? So you would say it's in between 9 and 8. Then if you wanted to, you could circle the 9 and say it's closer to 9. Isn't 80 closer to 81 than to 64? All right, so some of them, this is an estimation. It's in between 8 and 9, but it's closer to 9. All right? Okay, so that's square roots. Make sure you don't put something like 7 and 9. The numbers have to be touching each other, all right? 8 and 9 are right next to each other. You can't put 7 and 9. It is between 7 and 9, but 8's closer, right? So you want the two numbers that are closest, and those numbers are always back to back, like 8 and 9, 6 and 7, 3 and 2, 4 and 5. So you can't put like 5 and 8, all right? All right, so that's squares and roots. First part of our review. And then we talked about exponents and rules of exponents, right? So, put this in red. And some things we know. When you multiply exponents, you actually add them, right? And say we had a negative in there. What you would do in this one is 8 plus negative 5, right? Still adding them. Plus and minus turns into a minus. And we get 3, right? So we got to remember those rules from 7th grade. But you guys can also use calculators, so you could type in 8 plus negative 5 into your calculator with the parentheses like this, and you'll get your answer of 3, okay? All right, so that's multiplying them. And we are dividing them. And in this case, we actually subtract, right? So 9 minus 6 would be 3, right? This could also be written like this, x to the 9th divided by x to the 6th, right? All right. So there's two rules. Now remember, this only works if they have the same base, okay? So if I have this, and they ask you, we'll keep going. I can only combine the y's together, right? So my answer would be, sorry, that's a y. That would be my answer. That's the best I can get. I cannot combine those together. They have different bases, okay? So I'll circle your answers in these. It's a different problem, right? And then finally, exponents of exponents. These multiply, right? So this answer would not be m to the 6th. It's going to be m to the 8th. And it's not m to the b, m to the b. No, that's not it. That's something else. Okay, so let's try another one. They could also have a negative in it. And I end up with y to the negative 6th. Okay, so now we get into the tricky stuff. What do we do when we have a negative? That's not our answer. We have to get rid of the negative, right? By putting it on the bottom of a fraction. All right. Guys, look at one more, because we can combine these things together into some other problems, okay? And I'm going to give you one that was actually on... Yeah, this one was on the test last year. Let's erase this. You can pause it if you need to write the stuff down still, because I'm moving pretty fast, I know, because we've actually learned a lot this year already. Pretty happy with you guys. All right, so 2 to the 3rd to the negative 2 times 2 to the 4th, right? Okay, remember we multiply before we add, right? Just simple order of operations. So I'm going to multiply this one first. So I have 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, right? Times 2 to the 4th. Then I want to add these, right? Negative 6 plus 4. Different signs you subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2. So I have 2 to the 2. Then I say this one's stronger, so I'm going to make it negative. Am I done yet? No. Got to get rid of the negative. So it's 1 over 2 to the 2. And then we know 2 to the 2 just means 2 times 2, which is 1 over 4, right? We've done a bunch of problems just like this one, just because I know it's on the test, all right? So other things, so we can do those too. All right. Oh, one more thing. There's another way to show square. I forgot about something in square roots. Sorry. Square root of 64 can also be written in an algebra equation. These mean the same thing, right? You draw your line. It's the opposite of square. It's square root. And then I get 8 or negative 8, right? Yeah, I forgot about these. And these are what canceled out, right? So write that one down. Those will definitely show up on the test. Without a doubt. All right, so we're doing pretty good. So next was scientific notation. This is the last things we learned. So changing numbers. into standard form, right? All we do is write it down. Positive number, we move it to the right. It's going to become a big number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't mean put 5 zeros. Once again, you're making 5 loops. Zeros sit in the loops. So this answer is 240,000, right? Positive number, big number, right? All right, good. Negative numbers. That means it's going the other way, right? You're at 3.4. Loop's going to the left. 1, 2, 3. There's only 2 zeros, right? Because we have a loop here. 1, 2, 3. They sit in the loops. So I have 0.0034. Sometimes you'll see a 0 in front of the point. You can see negative number. It's a small number, right? We're really close to 0. Only a little bit bigger than 0. Let's do one more. Eight times 10 to the negative 4. What do you do when you don't have a point? Oh, you put it on the end, right? Zeros in the loops. 0.0008. Put a 0 in front of it if you want. All right, so that's changing scientific notation, right? All right, what about doing it the other way, changing it back? So we know scientific notation, blank dot blank blank times 10 to the something, right? Well, this is a big number, so we want a positive number here, right? So all I do is count from the end, the point's here. We want to move it after the first significant digit, after the first non-zero. So I'm moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, right? And then I have 4.34. Positive number for a big one, right? Let's look at a small one. Okay, very small number, right? Blank, dot, blank, blank, times 10 to the blank, right? So we want our point to move to here, after the first number. So how far did I move it? 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, right? But this is a tiny number, starts with 0, so we're going to put a negative 4 there. And my answer is just 5 point, you don't need the zeros after it, so it's just 5 times 10 to the negative 4th. 5 is the same as 5.00, right? Don't they mean the same thing? So you don't need these, all right? If you write them, it's not wrong, but you won't see them ever written that way. You'll see them written like this. Okay? So scientific notation. We'll get into the, tomorrow we'll review the different operations with scientific notation, right? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. A little trickier, but we'll get into those tomorrow. All right, that's it.